and welcome to my studio. Today we're going to be working on our wonderful snowflake corn husk wreath. And this was a wreath that I put together using corn husk and a kind of a recycled little inexpensive Christmas wreath, and this was a lot of fun to do. The little Christmas wreath, this was actually a Thanksgiving one. You can find real inexpensively, of course, at the Dollar Tree or the dollar store, and they usually just have garland on them, so it doesn't matter what they look like. Go ahead and pick one up, and that's going to be our base. Now what you do is you find this little tab right here where you hang it on, the little hanger, and your end should be right around there somewhere. And it is actually a garland, and these little tabs hold it on. So all you have to do is undo this to have your wreath form. And these are really a great way to get your wreath form, because these can be a little bit more expensive, especially more than $1. And then you have a garland. So that is a lot of fun. You could also use it to put your ribbon in and do different things with that to make a wreath. That's a lot of fun. So I'm just going to take that, use that for something else. Now on this one, you have these here. If they bother you, you can cut them off, but they're probably not going to show anyway. I was trying to remember if they showed on the inside or not, because we slide it through on the inside. Stop it for 1 second. We can leave the little knobs on unless they bother you, and just take your wire cutters and pop them off. And I'm going to show you how we dye the corn husk. And you can go to your local grocery store and buy the corn husk in the ethnic section where they prepare tamales. And that's kind of where that is at. And that's what these are actually for. And I found out the cheaper the corn husk, the better they work. The more expensive ones probably have like a wax on them. That's what it looks like to me, and they don't dye real well. So the cheaper the better. If you're having a hard time finding them, give me an email and maybe we can set you up and see if we can help you out on that. Sometimes you can find these at the dollar stores in their food section as well, and they work really good. Now on the wreath, the blue one behind me, I did exactly one package, and this was a 7-ounce package. And what I first do is I take it all apart. I have a sink of warm water, and I throw it in the warm water, and then I start taking them apart one by one and kind of soaking them as I'm going. The reason you don't leave them all together in a package is because they won't dye all the way through. They're in too tight, and you'll be surprised how many is in there. Honestly, if it was me and I was doing this project, I would probably, to just be on the safe side, go ahead and at least do another package of the color, or a package and a half, just so you have some extra instead of coming up short. You don't want to come up short. So what I did after that is I took it and I put it into my bucket, and I put enough water to cover my corn husk, and sometimes I set something on top just to kind of sink them down. So just enough with something on top to cover them up. And you can dye them with different items. Now be careful when you're working with the blue. This was a fabric dye, because the blue on the corn husk is a yellow base. So you've got to think about that. The blue didn't dye as well as I wanted it to, so I came in and used some leather dye with it as well and brighten that up. But the Ritz dye, the fabric dye, any of those type of things, you can go ahead and dye that with. And it says 30 minutes on most of the instructions. Follow your instructions on how to mix it. I only use the water that's in my bucket. I don't add more water to that. You want just enough to saturate it, and you don't want to dilute it down. So that is how I do color my corn husk. Another little thing I want to show you is our little corn husk tree. I love making this. There is a video on this. It is a lot of fun. We do have kits available, so you don't have to dye your own, and we have the foam for you. So go over and check that out as well. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to take my wreath here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a better hanger to this. So I'm just going to use my paddle wire, and I'm using my painted paddle wire just so it doesn't rust over time. And we're just going to make a big enough loop that we can hang it on a door or anything like that, not worry about it coming off. Little plastic hangers don't like to stay real well when a door is slammed. I'm kind of doubling up my wire here. And I am just going to push it through. And tie it off. Just so we have a hanger. If you want to cut it, you can cut it. You want to bend it back in, bend it back in. Whatever you are comfortable with. I'm going to go ahead and cut that a little bit there. Just a bigger one to kind of get rid of. Okay. Now, this has there's sections around the outside and the middle. The ones in the middle are one where there's 2 sections on the outside. I am going to fit 3 corn husks into each of those sections on the outside section. If they're bigger corn husks, you can do 2, or you can, and you want your corn husks dry now. After you've done it, dry them out real well. You can put a fan on them and they dry real well. And there's also one side that dries better than the back side. So you want to make sure that you have that side out front. And we'll kind of just curve it around and place it in there. And we're simply just going to run it in to our wreath. Now that one I only needed 2. This guy's a little bit smaller. Sometimes putting him with a little bigger guy may be an idea. These seem to be a little bit bigger than the blue ones that I was working with. That only needed 2. See how fast this is going though? And they go through that, and they also go through this other side though. Make sure you're getting them on both sides so it's kind of stabilizing them. And your shorter ones, you're probably not going to push them all the way to the middle. You're just going to kind of leave them at the length of the outer ones. You're going to be really surprised how fast this is going to go together. And I am only using 2. If you have wiggable space there, then put another one in there. Try and keep them all about the same length. Okay, I'm going to keep working on this, and I'm going to finish up around it. We'll probably just put the video in fast forward motion while I go all the way around on this first level. Okay, we finished all of this. We're coming back in. Now some of these, if you see a hole And we need to fill it up a little bit more. Come back in and put a little bit more in these. Some of these I put 3 in. There was one big piece that was so big, I only put 1 in. This guy's wiggling around quite a bit on me, so I'm actually going to come in here and just glue him a good bit. Now I want to be really careful because I've got to add this next layer on top, and I don't want to have the glue where I can't get through to him. And anywhere where you see a space, we're going to add another piece in it to cover up that space. Now these little pieces are a little bit smaller. You also can glue them onto the guy behind them as well. And I think that kind of helps fill up that space. Now see how we're kind of even all the way around. We've got that all kind of covered up there. Now I'm going to flip this over and we're going to secure it. So what I did is I took a piece of material that I cut about the size that would fit right in here. And we're actually going to glue our material on to give it that support that it needs to keep our corn husk into our wreath. So I'm just going to start, and I want to try and hit all the wreath as I can. And I do have this on high setting, so be really careful. It's going to be really hot. Push that down nice and secure. In this situation, more glue is better than less glue. I get a lot of glue on there. And don't worry about your material being perfect. Just want it to help stabilize it. If there's a little bump in there, you can glue that down, whatever you want to do. Finish this up around. Try and keep your glue gun strings off as much as possible. That is my only dislike about the glue guns. Well, that and the blisters, but I've used a low temp more in the last couple of years than I've ever done in my life. It dries faster, but if you're using it, it's not going to burn you if you touch it. But on this one, we do need the high temp. It gives us more workable time. But on a lot of stuff that you think you need the high temp, test it. You might not need the high temp. Now, we're going to go ahead and even come in here on the inside just to make it that much more secure. And you could cut this off, or you can just jump like I'm going to do. And just an old sheet or rag or just any old piece of material. If you don't have an old one, use a new piece. It's not going to take very much. Okay. Make sure you've got everything nice and secure. And now we're going to put our centerpiece in. Isn't that amazing how big that makes it? You're starting with this little tiny form, and it just makes it so much bigger. Now on this next layer, the softer, this is an ideal piece. The softer you have, the better off you are. And we only really need one for each thing. So I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So I'm kind of looking at sizes as well. Now you can do, I'm going to do green on this layer. On my last one, of course, you can see I used the same color. Now this wreath I'm going to do a little bit different. I'm not going to curl this one, but I will show you how to go ahead and curl it when we get it all in here. So I'm going to go ahead and spend a couple minutes putting this in, and we'll probably put the camera back on fast forward just so you can kind of see it as it goes, but we don't take up all of your time.
It's very ingenious how you use that metal hoop. I assume that's metal.
It's plastic.
Plastic. You know who probably would love that would be, well, I don't know who you plan on giving it to, but probably Maria and her mom, since they make tamales or do the Mexican thing, you know, but, or the little one. They're pretty tough too. I banged that 3 times with the jacuzzi cover. You wouldn't even know it. And each time I did, I laughed. But I did. If it stays this cold, I really don't think I want to go tonight.
What'd you say?
If it stays this frigid cold, I don't know if I want to go tonight.
Well, we're only going to be there for the lighting. We're not going to be there for the...
It's only 18 degrees out right now.
It's only 18 out right now?
Yeah, and the wind is getting worse. So, I don't mean to be a party pooper, but...
I know.
I just...
I know.
I don't do frigid cold very well.
Well...
Has nothing to do with my hip. It's just I'm a big pussy. And we can always meet when it's nicer. Okay?
Yeah.
And we can keep filming too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe it was premature, but it's just, I've been down there a couple times when it's been frigid and I don't enjoy it. So I hope that doesn't disappoint you.
No.
And I would have said this 30 years ago. I just don't. I've been healthy. I'm going to stay that way because I want to go to Disneyland.
Now, what do you think about curling these or not curling it? Is it just as pretty not curling it?
Yeah, I think so. I think I would just, maybe like you said, show them, but just saying this one, I'm not going to. No, I think it's gorgeous. I think it's really, really pretty. You definitely know how to make wreaths. Well,
I've always loved wreaths.
I can tell.
Wreaths have always been my passion.
I can tell when you're really into one of your projects and then when you're just going through the motion.
Motions. Yeah.
And, or when something isn't
going right.
Well, to me or the average crafter, it would probably be just wonderful, but I can tell when you're not happy with the
I wish
outcome.
I had a couple more of these Christmas ones like this to show you how to just use ribbon. I think just using it as a ribbon format and showing you how to put the ribbon in it.
Well, we can pick up some more
would be really
tomorrow.
fun to do too.
I don't.
After thinking about that, that's the base just like the others are the base, you know.
But unless we get a ton of snow tonight, and I'm not talking 3 to 5 inches, they'll get the road. I still want to go to church tomorrow.
Okay, I think I'm ready to kick back in here.
Okay, quiet.
I want these covered up enough. I want to check something out. I might have to replace these two to cover. I can cover them back up. All right, let's just go ahead and kick it back in. All right, we've gone around once, and if you've probably seen as I'm working, sometimes if one's a little bit too wide on this inside one, I'm just ripping it apart and sticking it in, because you don't want it too wide on this inside part. And we've covered this up pretty well. There is a little spot right here that I want to cover up with a little piece, and I've got one on the floor here. That's perfect. So what we're going to do is just kind of cover that up. But what we're going to do is we're going to glue these down now. So we're just coming underneath here. And you could glue them down as you're working on them too. That's up to you. But this way we can just glue them all at one time and not keeping going back and forth with our glue gun here. Got a lot of glue that's running around. And that will secure these in place. Maybe a little bit easier to glue them as you're going, but that's okay. Whatever works for you. My glue gun's not keeping up with me today. And if you're run out of, I've got it stuck a little bit here, it's not pulling through. If you're running out of stuff underneath to glue onto, we've got that material back there, so go ahead and hit that material as well. You don't want your glue to show because we're not going to have all of this covered, so. And there it is. It's not a good day unless I burn myself with the glue gun. I haven't done that as much since I started using the low temp more, and you might even be able to use the low temp on this part a little bit more. But isn't this already really, really pretty? We've got a few more left here to glue. Now, after we glue this part, we're going to show you how to curl it, and then I would go outside and varnish it. We're going to varnish it for a couple of reasons. It's going to keep the color from fading, it's going to keep it fresher longer and everything, and also it's going to help keep the bugs out of it better. So, And when I'm going to store these inside of my closet, just hang them up and leave them hanging so I can have them nice and fresh when I'm ready to go to them next year. Okay, once you've got these all glued down, we're going to show you how to curl one. I'm going to use another one here just because I don't want to pull one out and mess everything up that I have done. Kind of just gluing all of these ends down where these little things keep coming from here. Now we're going to say this guy is in this one. And this takes a little bit of time. I'm not going to lie to you about this, but it is really pretty. I really do like that wreath, but I also wanted to show you one that doesn't take much time at all. Once you have these dyed, they're really going to just go together pretty fast. So I take my sections and 1/2 inch, 1/4. You want to make sure that they're not too thin down there that they break off, but they're small enough that you can use them in a curling iron. And we're going to use a hair curling iron. And our last one. See, he got a little bit too thin. You don't want to break him off that thin. If he breaks off, don't worry about him. Now, the one thing I did notice with the curling irons is if you leave them plugged in for a while you're working, they have an automatic shut off on them. So make sure if your curling iron doesn't start to work or something, you probably have, it's probably shut off on its own and you haven't realized it. I'm going to use my Smalley curling iron. You can use the one that you have. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just going to make a little bit bigger curls. So that's totally up to you. Keep it separate from your glue gun. You don't want to have the glue gun on your curling iron. That was a mistake that I had. So if you're, I keep 2 metal trays from the dollar store, so I don't have that mess. Keep one in one tray and keep it nice and clean. Thrift store would be a really good idea for a craft curling iron to buy one. I actually had seen a curling iron that had kind of what triggered my mind at Michael's for ribbons, to curl them with ribbons. So there's different things that you could do with that, you know, just all the warnings that they tell you on the curling iron, follow all of those. So I'm going to take my curling iron and we're going to roll it up. And you're just going to kind of treat it just like hair. See how long you need to curl it, how fast it shapes, just like you would when you do your hair. You want different ways, different angles. Sometimes one's going to be a little bit tougher on you, but the more you apply the heat, so if you slide it up, it's going to become more pliable. So that's another really good thing to know. So you can slide it back up if you needed to. Now see, that's curls just like hair. It reminds me of curling my daughter's hair for her performances in junior high, cheerleading and color guard. So we're just going to curl this all up. Now when I was doing this, I just left this piece right here because this covered it all up and I didn't have to worry about it. So if we're not going to cover it up, we've got to think about decorating around it if you leave it like this. But see how those curls are really, really fun. So at this time, after you've curled it all, we're going to take it outside and varnish it. Okay, for all you people that tell me you can't spray varnish during the winter, I'm going to show you a little trick here. I go to the back room and I use a pop-up little greenhouse tent or a little child's plastic tent, something that you can seal the door, open it, hand in, spray it, seal it up, and it keeps from going all over. I'd still probably open a window in the back room and I still may wear a mask, but that is totally up to you. One other thing I did is I took some little strips because I wanted to cover this plastic part up because I'm not going to cover this one up with my curls. I put my glue gun right down the middle and that made them a little bit more workable, and I just put it right over the plastic part and glued that on all the way around. It doesn't look real great, but it doesn't look bad. And we're going to get our star on it, and that's no problem. On my blue one, I used little tiny white snowflakes, and I purchased them from a dollar store. The way to really class your snowflakes up and make them look expensive is to glue pearls or rhinestones in like that into the snowflake. So just by adding a little touch, it just adds a lot. Now I had found this color and I had really liked this color with the red, but I couldn't find a snowflake in bigger to fit in the middle of it to cover it up. So what I did was I found a clear one my husband actually picked up for me. It was clear, and you have to find acrylic paint and glitter about the same color. So I had a glitter that matched. So any glitter color that you want to use, find your acrylic color, base coat the back of it, because if you don't, you're not going to get a nice coverage with your glitter. It's going to look spotty. And once that's dry, put your glue on. And I used Elmer's glue, not tacky glue. The Elmer's glue just applied better and worked better than the tacky glue did. I shook it all on. Now another thing that I do with all of my glitter stuff, and you can see I'm not glittering that much like most of them do. The first thing I do, and to preserve pieces that you have as well, is go out and varnish your glitter. That way it keeps it on there better over the years and it won't just fall off like the other ones do. So go out, varnish anything that any decoration you have that's varnished, and it'll help stick to that. I would just use an inexpensive non-yellowing like Krylon varnish. Probably the gloss, because you still want the shine. At first I was really concerned about doing that. I thought it would really dull it out, but this is a gloss one that I have spray varnished and it looks really, really good. So I'm going to make sure now that I have the top hanger at the top of where I want my ornament to go, and I'm going to kind of place it in, and you can see that the snowflake was big enough to fit, and I'm going to see kind of where it's hitting and just do the glues there. So I'm going to just kind of do in the middle and just on these guys a little bit. Now I'm using the hot glue gun setting because it would have already cooled with a low temp setting right now. And we're going to place that down. Get that on there nice and tight. And I just hot glue gunned my little diamonds and pearls on as well. Okay, now on my other one, after I curled it, I placed my snowflakes under and I used 12 of them. Now this one, I'm only going to use 6. I think 12 is just too much. So I'm going to put one right in the middle and one just a little bit at the bottom. And I'm going to line these up with 6 areas. And I'm using my pearl spots. You can put a little bit more glue on it if you think it needs a little bit more glue. That's totally up to you. Give it something to hit underneath. Hold that in spot. But even these real inexpensive ornaments, you can make them look really fancy by adding ribbon. Like if you were doing the little deer, add ribbon around their neck. That guy I'm going to have to do a little bit more on because he's not quite laying down underneath those corn husks. But just by adding stuff to them, how nice they look. Hit him just go up underneath and press those so those are nice and secure. If you didn't want these so tall, you could trim these down and put these snowflakes behind them as well. And I almost did that, but I really like the fullness of it, so I decided against that. Another thing, when you're gluing the rhinestones and the pearls on, do that after you varnish. You don't want to do that before. It doesn't leave a nice coating on your piece. So, okay, we've finished him up. Got him all ready to go here. And look how beautiful and big and full that one is, even compared to the other one that we did. And that is our corn husk Christmas wreath. If you have any questions about what I did today, please come on over and email me at art@miriamjoy.com. I'd be happy to get back with you. Also, check out the fall corn husk wreath that we did, as well as garland. They are a different type of wreath. We did them different, so they're a lot of fun. You convert them to Christmas. I think a Christmas garland with the red and green corn husk would be really, really pretty as well to have on a table or on a fireplace. That would be gorgeous too. So thank you so much. If you need any supplies, please visit me at miriamjoy.com. Have a Merry Christmas and God bless.